Today is a continuation of our public hearing that we held on for the soil board, and so we'll need to open up the Board of Selectmen's meeting. There's a motion to reopen public hearing that was continued by the soil board.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The Selectmen's meeting is open.
Is there a motion to reopen the continuance of the public hearing for the soil board?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are now open. Pretty much the first order of business, the last time we discussed, I see Mr. Luke Legier, counsel from PJ Keating's here, and we're just basically going to have some discussion around peer review. That's what we discussed at the last public hearing, closing out the last public hearing, was to try to choose a peer review consultant to review the application for completeness. So, Mr. Legier, I see you forwarded to our town council a few names, and we've also given you a few names. I see we had some discussion on Weston and Sampson, and I don't know if there's any conflict.
Mr. Chairman, I can just say, maybe we can just, the names of the firms that we submitted are not the names of the firms that you all submitted, correct?
That is
Yeah,
correct.
I just want people to understand that, right?
Yep, there's none of the names.
We've come up with a group, they've come up with a group, and now we're just going through that process.
So basically, you've submitted 3 names, we submitted 3 names with 1 alternate. If you want, I can go through for the audience. Our first pick is Weston and Sampson. Second is Wilcox and Barton out of Londonderry, New Hampshire. Third is Geosyntec out of Brookline, Mass. And we have an alternate, GZA, Geo Environmental, out of Norwood, Mass. PJ Keating submitted 3 names. One is AECom, Boston, Mass. Woodward and Curran, Canton, Mass. And Stantec, Boston, Mass. I don't know, I think we feel comfortable. We have a local, Weston and Sampson. Town council spoke with them and they could do the job. I don't know if there's any objection from your side on Weston and Sampson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gaspar. Again, for the record, Luke Legier, McGregor, Legier, and Stevens on behalf of PJ Keating Company. Yes, thank you very much for the list. We appreciate being provided with that. Really what this all boils down to from Keating's perspective is just making sure that the board has a peer review consultant, boards, I guess I should say, has a peer review consultant that would really meet all the qualifications. That's why we went through the process of drafting what we call the request for proposals or request for qualifications. It wasn't really because we thought the town needed to put this out to bid, and I think town council agrees on that. It was really more just to set the parameters that we thought would be important for any consultant to be able to meet the criteria and qualifications, and just making sure that the town was on the same page. So having reviewed this list, we do have some concerns with Weston and Sampson, really just around their level of experience and expertise on geotechnical issues, which is certainly going to be a big part of this application. So looking at the list, obviously the 3 that we provided were comfortable, would meet all of the qualifications. Looking at the list of 4 provided by the town, which you just read, we think Geosyntec and GZA would for sure check the boxes in terms of the qualifications and background and expertise that would be necessary. So of the 4 that were provided from the town to us, those would be the 2 that we would view as being probably the best fit from our perspective.
I think when we did it, we were just looking at somebody who has a geologist, right, and a hydrologist on staff that could help us out with some of the things in the application. I don't think we were getting too into the logistics of quarries and things of the like. I mean, geotechnical is one thing, hydrology is another thing, as long as he had expertise there to get through what GRC's made claims to, right? That's all we're really doing here is we're hiring a firm to back check what was submitted on your behalf of PJ Keating, right? So,
Sure.
Selectman Wona.
Has PJ Keating done any business with Weston Sampson, Wilcock Barton, Geosyntec, or GZA? Have you done any business with them at all, or been part of a peer review on their end? You know, like with
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. And I can tell you that, so Town Council had provided the name Weston and Sampson a couple days ago. I hadn't seen these other three firms until about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. So I just quickly went out and placed a call. The other folks from Keating tonight have a conflict. They had somewhere else they needed to be. So assuming that tonight was really primarily just procedural to kind of work through this, they tasked me with being here tonight and covering this. But to answer the question, in going through this list, no, they don't have direct experience, as far as I know, or Doug Vino, who I was talking with, didn't have direct, background or experience working with them, but is aware of them, certainly. And that was, I had heard previously that Weston and Sampson, there were some concerns just about whether they had the depth and expertise in a couple of the areas that I mentioned. I think Wilcox and Barton were just not really, none of us are really familiar with that particular firm. But again, Geosyntec, GZA, we know of them, we're confident that they would be a good fit here, but Keating doesn't have any prior experience with them working for, with, or against, as far as I know.
I mean, obviously, that would be somebody, once we do pick somebody, obviously, we would have to make sure that there's no conflict there, right?
Certainly, I would expect that would be.
Whether it be one from you or one from us, we'd have to always make sure that there's no conflict there.
Of course, absolutely. So I don't think there's any conflict issues with any of the firms on this list, from Keating's perspective at least. That feedback I'm giving is purely a reflection of who Keating views as probably being the most qualified to really be able to serve you and advising you on the issues that we see coming down the line.
Sure.
Hey, Jeff?
I think, it sounds to me like they're okay with Geosyntec or GZA, which are our picks, so.
Yeah, there's no objection from.
I would have had, and I told Mr. Legere, is as far as their list goes, we've got an issue with one that potential conflict of interest, and a second one with past history. But if they're fine with the two on our list, I think that we can go further and explore which one can do the job the quickest.
I mean, that's the other thing that I wanted to bring up is I haven't had a conversation with Geosyntec or GZA, and I know my board members haven't either. So it's kind of trying to expedite the process. And if we contact, say, Geosyntec, and they say, well, it's 3 months out before we could actually get down there, where are we at there? So, but I think if we have the two that you're gonna be agreeable to, I'm pretty sure, based on Mr. Kelly, we're pretty confident that we can get somebody.
Yeah, we will pursue it very quickly.
And I would feel comfortable, and I think it's just a phone call, would be just to reach out to Weston and Sampson. I just wanted to address, your question, right, about what their depth is,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And, because I would, with all due respect, I appreciate your input, but I'd hate to throw somebody out without us doing our, due diligence in that regard, right? So we've got three. I think if we've got three, we can make those calls and, settle on who we think is in the best interest of the town.
So, Mr. Chair, of the Geosyntec and GZA and Sampson, do you have a ranking that you guys would like to go with?
I would put, I think, based on what you've heard me say so far, we would put Weston and Sampson
At the bottom.
At the bottom.
But the other two?
between the other two. No preference.
Okay.
I'm just curious, Jeff, as to why help me understand why you thought Weston and Sampson would be a good fit for us.
I dealt with Weston and Sampson, never in a quarry setting. I sent over the qualifications, and they came back to me and said that they have somebody on staff that can, people on staff that can do it.
Okay.
comments? Anything further?
No?
I don't know if this is helpful. I don't know if making the list longer is helpful, but there was one other firm that was mentioned, and I apologize, I don't remember who meant. I think when Attorney Blake and I were having a conversation at one point, one or the other of us mentioned Tie Bonds, which I think is another really good firm. I'm very confident they'd be qualified as well. That's nowhere on the list, but I'm just throwing it out there in the event that, you know, to your point earlier, Mr. Gaspar, these firms aren't available for months, or there's a conflict that we didn't immediately recognize on the town side or something like that. That's another option that I'm confident Keating would be comfortable with, if the town would be comfortable with it.
So it's, I know that when I looked it up, trying to find out if there was peer review consultants that were working in some of the other towns that you have operations, kind of drove myself nuts in Lunenburg, the town of Lunenburg, because I guess a big portion of PJ Keating's property is located in Lancaster. So I'm going berserk looking in Lunenburg for, you know, soil board meetings, and then I found them in Lancaster after I did a little bit more research. And I did find a selectmen's meeting dated, I think it was November 7th, 2022, where the board had decided to go with CEI versus Tie and Bond. So I do know that name, and that is somebody that I guess did peer review for your Lancaster, Lunenburg, on behalf of the town of Lancaster.
Okay, that's entirely possible. That actually would make sense. That wouldn't be a conflict, you know, for Keating. They haven't worked for Keating. They were
Correct, they work for Lancaster.
Precisely.
So we have some names. Mr. Kelly reached out to some folks. I think it's, you know, it's on our list. I think we just stick with Geosyntec, GCA, and I think we just leave Weston and Sampson, and if all things fall apart, we could have a conversation around Tie and Bond. But I think based on what we have here, based on what you've told us, that Geosyntec and GCA do have qualifications. Mr. Kelly has people that are familiar with both of those firms. That's where those names came from. So I think we're pretty confident, Mr. Kelly.
We will pursue it and keep both attorneys in the loop, just to make sure, once we get the experts that would be assigned, to make sure there's no conflict of interest, and then we'll present it to the board.
Okay, so Mr. Blake, we probably should make a motion, right? And it would be a joint motion on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and the Soil Board to use Geosyntec for peer review, and our alternate would be GZA.
Sure.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that was a joint motion on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, Soil Board, just because of the way the bylaw is written, we have to do it that way.
Understood.
So you can give that information back to corporate. Hopefully there will be no hiccups on, you know, between now and then when you give them those names. I know you said you talked to them, they seem to be okay with it. But who knows, you know, you said they're tied up and doing other things right now, so, you know, they might start looking at things and go, oh, wait a minute. And if there is a conflict, I would appreciate a phone call to town council ASAP saying Geosyntec has done work on behalf of PJ Keating, and at least let town council know that.
By all means, it's in our interest to keep this moving forward as quickly as we can. The last thing we want is to have the town spend the next 2 or 3 weeks spinning its wheels, getting proposals for a firm that is going to be conflicted out. So absolutely, I don't think there's going to be any issues. If there are, I will certainly let Attorney Blake and Mr. Kelly know as soon as I know.
And the other thing I just wanted to ask while we have you here is we talked about real size existing condition plans. So I think that's something that we're gonna need. I believe peer review is gonna need it as well. So if you could have PJ Keating work on that, existing condition plans for the current quarry, not something that was 10, 12 years ago. I think we got some plans in the past that were kind of outdated.
Understood. We heard that request loud and clear. I believe they are already in the process of having those plans drawn up. So absolutely, it's happening.
And the only other thing that we did have a quick discussion on, any recommendations on, like, you asked, you have some suggestions in there for, that you just can't meet, right? Like the sloping on the quarry walls, 2-for-1 and things of that, like, and we were looking to do some waivers. Did you have any way that this board can maneuver?
I don't have anything to add to what I said initially in response to that. Certainly, I know that's one of the issues that you were looking to have us address as a board. So certainly, as we're working our way through the process, you know, we haven't lost sight of it, but I don't have anything more to say tonight beyond what I said last time.
Thank you.
Well, we'll have to, if you're gonna continue, you have to continue it to a time and date, sir.
Mr. Kelly, any other further questions from Ms. Lozada? Town
The
council?
chair and I have talked.
Anything?
Nope.
Selectman Warner?
No, I think we're inching closer to resolution. Do we have a date set? We wanna do
I
this?
just, I want to have respect for the people in the audience if they have any questions, comments based on what we just discussed. Nothing?
Well, I have a comment, Mr. Chairman. Concerning Dave DeRoche, 1399 Main Street, Acushnet. Oh, of course. A comment about the application does ask for variances. And according to the town bylaw, there are no variance paragraphs written in the soil board bylaw until it would grant a variance. So, and according to the charter, if you want to change a bylaw, you have to go to town meeting, get 2/3 votes. So, you know, the way I look at it is that if they want to have some variances, they're going to need to go to town meeting and get a 2/3 vote to change or add a paragraph that says they can have variances for this specific bylaw.
Sure.
That's the way I see it. Thank you.
Sure. That may be an option.
Well, let's open for discussion. Thank you.
I think that having a variance provision is in most bylaws. I think it was left out of this one, to be honest with you. If you look at most bylaws, there's always a variance provision in it. I think this one here was, you know, left out. So I think that's a discussion that we may have to have.
Thank you.
Is there any other concerns, comments, questions? Is there a motion to continue the public hearing to a date, time, and place certain? I think we know the place, just a date. Mr. Legier, do you have, I mean, or Mr. Blake, either or, what could basically comes next, right? Because peer review is going to take a little bit. I think that we need to have some other discussions based on the applications that this board needs to rectify, based on some of the requests in the application. So I think we could take care of a couple of things at once. Can get peer review going, and then have a dialogue over the rest of the application that doesn't involve peer review.
Sure, I think that makes sense, Mr. Gaspar. I guess I do think it probably would be best to reconvene when there are actual proposals in hand for the peer review consultants, just to put a bow on that. Our preference would be to, again, move this forward as expeditiously as we possibly can, not wanting to waste everyone's time by scheduling a meeting that's too soon, but 2 or 3 weeks out, I don't know if that's too soon. I suppose if we get to the point of the hearing and we're not ready to go ahead, we don't have what we need, we could always continue it at that point. But that would be, our preference, I think, would be to look 2 or 3 weeks out, so last week April, first week of May.
Yeah, we have, obviously, elections coming, town meeting coming, so the office and staff is a little bit busy with that.
Every Tuesday, I have a
but-
town meeting.
Mr. Kelly?
It looks like the 16th. Third.
Jamie?
What about May 3rd? Is that too long?
May 3rd? No, I'm just asking,
That's a
I'm
Wednesday.
trying to be consider it for you because of staff shortages, town meeting, things of the like, getting the warrant done. I don't want to jam up.
No, I gotta get the warrant done before that.
Okay. I'm just
So-
throwing it out to you.
And he's available, and there's an open date on May 3rd, which is a Wednesday.
Mr. Chairman,
You okay with that?
if I may, that's candidates night, May 3rd.
It is?
Oh.
Good to know.
So May 3rd's not going to work?
Well,
Is that-
hold on, we can multitask. We shouldn't let candidates night get in the way of town business. I mean, we can do it at 4 o'clock. That's when
What time's candidates night? What time's candidates night?
6:30.
What time?
Where is it?
6:30.
Where is it?
Here.
So if they set it up?
So I think I would rather not do that because there's a lot to discuss, and I think it's gonna take some back and forth on certain things in the application that's been requested. So I'd rather not get in a jam where we're here conducting a public
What
hearing.
about the 4th?
Yep,
What night's that, a Thursday?
Thursday.
That's, I don't know if Thursday's working.
No,
What's wrong with Tuesday night? No good?
not available.
I have a town meeting.
How long, let me ask you
What
this.
about 20?
Let me just ask Mr. Legia this. You've probably been down
we
this
settled on candidates
path
night.
before, right?
What's that?
Now, with peer review.
Yeah,
How long do you anticipate that would take from the time that we get a green light from one of our engineering firms saying, yep, we can go, right? How long is it usually that process of working, because it's the peer review engineer is gonna come down, do site visits, have to go through the application, and then after doing site visits, going through the application, I believe that peer review will be consulting back and forth with TRC that actually did the original application to identify certain ways they did certain tests and specs and things of the like. In your experience, if you have that, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but if you have that, how long do you see that peer review period? Is it 30 days, 60 days?
Yeah, I would say somewhere around a month. I don't, the town council probably has as good an idea as I do, but from the time they get the green light,
That's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday, so we could do April 26th.
Because our meetings are on Monday.
Okay. So April 26th is that okay?
that should be fine.
5 PM?
My only ask would be that would you consider 4 PM?
Okay. Is 4 PM okay?
That's fine. Helps avoid
Jeff,
the
is 4
traffic.
PM okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm available all day.
So it's April what?
April 26th, Council on Aging, 4 PM.
Hopefully we'll be here at 3.
Yeah.
I know. So April, is there a motion to continue the public hearing to April 26th, 4 PM at the Council on Aging?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
And that was a joint motion.
That was a joint motion. Mr. Kelly, we don't need executive. Is there a motion to adjourn
So moved.
the public hearing?
Yep. Second.
All those
No,
in favor?
to continue the public hearing. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, we already did the motion to continue. So now we're adjourning.
The meeting.
The meeting, not the public hearing.
Motion to adjourn the meeting, not the public hearing.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.